Welcome to Fronteras, a Changing America. I'm Carlos Correa. On the program, Michael Ray Huerta. He's a new face to city politics. We'll talk to him about his campaign for mayor, plus what he thinks about red light cameras in our community and why he wants to decrease the salaries of the mayor and city councilors. But first, a different type of campaign is taking place in more than 40 cities across the country. Thousands of teenagers are getting informed about the marketing tactics of the tobacco industry, the truth about addiction, and the health effects and social consequences of smoking. We must warn you, it's about to get a little loud. There's a lot of things many people don't know about smoking.
Smokers usually start smoking before the age of 18-year-old. 80% of these smokers and 90% of these smokers start smoking before the age of 20 years old.
Stephanie Malam is on the Vamps Warp Tour, visiting cities across the country as part of The Truth, the nation's largest smoking prevention campaign for young people. It's not a lecture-type organization. Instead, members share nothing but the facts.
Well, one thing that, for example, I didn't know about smoking is that in one cigarette, there is over 600 chemicals. And this is something that, most people don't know. For example, my friends, they all smoke. And they tell me, Stephanie, why are you not smoking? Because it's something cool. It's something that, they want to do. But there's, over 600 chemicals in one cigarette. 1 in 3 kids that smoke will eventually die from a tobacco-related disease.
According to leaders with the Truth campaign, about 50,000 people die each year from secondhand smoke-related diseases in the United States. 1,200 people die every day from tobacco-related disease.
Well, actually, most kids are not aware of the consequences of smoking because whenever we're on the zone, promoting our shirts, promoting our merchandise, these kids come up to us and they're like, wow, I can't believe that these are the actual statistics.
Of current smokers in the U.S., 46,000 have lung cancer from smoking. 384,000 have had a stroke from smoking. And the numbers go up for people living with chronic bronchitis, emphysema, and smokers who have had a heart attack, all thanks to their smoking habit.
And that's the number one reason why we're out here, is to give the facts. We're not going to tell kids don't smoke. We're not going to be preachy about it. We're going to relate to the kids, make them have a good time. If we just tell somebody don't smoke, here's a t-shirt, that means nothing to them. But if they earn their t-shirt by winning this game with 100 people and they learn a fact, every time they wear the t-shirt, they're going to remember this moment and they're going to remember that fact.
Through many activities, the Truth Crew is able to pass along some very important information.
The game shows them a sense of community with us and with everybody. So the moment of them playing the game, them winning the t-shirt with the fact on the back, means a lot more than just us telling them not to smoke or us just randomly giving away information and stuff.
The campaign travels to more than 25 states in this country, reaching out to about 500,000 young people every year. And speaking of young people, our next guest, it might be the youngest person to be running for the City of Las Cruces mayor, Michael Ray Huerta. Thank you for being part of the program.
Thanks for letting me be here.
First things first is, you're somewhat of a new face here in the Las Cruces political world. Tell us a little bit about your past experience.
Well, again, thank you for the opportunity to be on the program. I'm a third-generation Las Crucean. My family's been here for generations. My grandfather started off in Silver City working in the coal mines, moved to Las Cruces because he thought there'd be more opportunity here. Came here, started up an apostolic church where he was pastor for over 25 years. My father's worked for the federal government now for nearly 30 years, and my mother's a longtime small business owner in the community. She has restaurants. She also owns a real estate company. My personal background is I've worked in politics, in nonprofits, and in change and reform for my entire professional career. I was the press secretary for Harry Teague, our former mayor, our former member of Congress. I've worked in education reform this past year, working in low-income, low-performing middle schools across the state of New Mexico. Worked for Senator Clinton, doing Hispanic outreach for her, and various other political capacities. And now I'm here in Las Cruces full-time, running for mayor.
What was the point where you decided that you wanted to run for mayor of this city?
Well, when you look at Las Cruces and you look at the politicians that we have, the direction that we're heading, the challenges that we face, and more importantly, the opportunities that we possess in the grasp of our hands, I know that we can do better. We can do better than we've done the past 4 years, we can do better than we've done the past decade, and we can do better not just for those who are already doing well in Las Cruces, but we can do better for the vast majority of Las Cruces families who are struggling to get by.
What do you think your chances are in this race? Because you're dealing with a mayor who's seeking re-election. You're also working against someone who's been part of the city council for 8 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're right. I'm running against two career politicians, and I'm not going to have the support of those who've been involved and ingrained in the political process in Las Cruces for decades. And truthfully, I don't want their support. Mm-hmm. The support that I want is from hardworking Las Cruces families, and I'll give you an example to tell you of how the campaign is going. A few days ago, a young man came up to me, and he said, "I know that you're Michael Huerta, you've never met me, and you don't know who I am, but last week I donated $10 to your campaign. That's all I could afford, but I believe in what you're fighting for." When I hear that every single day, from not only young people, but from senior citizens who feel that they haven't had a voice in city government, from small business owners who know that we can do better, I know the campaign's going well. And so you're right, I'm running against career politicians, and I'm probably not going to be the candidate who raises the most money from some of those old factions. But I'm running not to be a part of the good old boys club. I'm running to bring a Las Cruces that fights for all of our families.
What was the motivation behind your run for mayor?
Well, you know, like I said, I'll give you a clear example. Both of my opponents seem to often talk about how good life is in Las Cruces. In fact, the current mayor, if you go to his campaign website, it says, "Life has been good the past 4 years in Las Cruces." And my response is, for who? If you look at where we've come the last 4 years in Las Cruces, 4 years ago we had a city budget of $417 million. This year, it's $299 million. In the past 4 years, poverty among all groups has increased. Poverty among women increased. Right now in the city limits of Las Cruces, 35% of our children live in poverty. Right now in Las Cruces, real unemployment numbers are somewhere near 11 and 12%. Life's not good in Las Cruces. I can't tell you how many people I run into, business owners, realtors, people who are employed, people with degrees, people with masters who are struggling to get by. And so what you see in this election is between two of my opponents, more of the same, more who want to fight to maintain the status quo for the good old boys because they're doing great and they'll always do great. And then with me, you see a new direction, someone who wants to fight for all people, all working families, so that all Las Crucens have a chance. You know, people often ask me what type of Democrat that I am. And I'm a Democrat who sincerely believes that in America, if you work hard and if you play by the rules, you should be able to get ahead. That's my vision for Las Cruces, and unfortunately what you've seen in my opponents is working hard and playing by the rules doesn't matter. It matters most who you know, who you've donated to in the last campaign, and that gets you ahead. I want to change that.
So if you're elected mayor for the city of Las Cruces, what are some of the things you would do to help improve the local economy here, to help bring businesses here? Yeah,
well, you know, one of the first things that I want to talk about there is the deal of salaries with city politicians. Now, I come across every single day families, students, young people, senior citizens who struggle to decide which bills they're going to pay and which bills they can't afford to pay. I come across small businesses who wonder if they're going to be able to afford to keep the lights on the next month. In this economy, where over the past 4 years, every single one of us has had to sacrifice, it makes no sense to me that both of my opponents, Dolores Connor and Ken Miyagishima, voted to give themselves a 15% pay increase. Now, I know you go across and meet a lot of Las Crucens. When's the last time you came across a senior citizen who saw a 15% increase in their Social Security benefits? When's the last time you saw a retired federal employee who saw a 15% increase in their COLA benefits? When's the last time you saw a small business in Las Cruces who saw a 15% increase in their revenues over the past year? Then why does it make sense that our city politicians think it's okay for themselves to receive a 15% pay increase. I don't think that politicians are exempt from the sacrifices that every single one of us have to make. So the first thing I'm going to do my first day in office is I'm going to cut my salary in half so that I can show Las Crucens and the city can show Las Crucens that we're in this together. But you're right. Right now, the three big problems facing Las Cruces are: number one, the state of the middle class; number two, the high level and unacceptable level of poverty that we have; and number three, education in our community. The number one thing we can do to address those three issues is work our hardest to bring good paying jobs to Las Cruces. And we can go into further details about that.
What do you think about the downtown area right now and the way it's progressing? Because the city is growing.
Yeah. You know, downtown, I think, is another example of when city politicians and bureaucrats get in the way, how things just don't go right. Downtown is finally starting to look good, and I think my opponents are doing everything they can to make sure it gets done before this next election, when it should have been done years ago. But I think we're headed in the right way. There's a few things that we need to do strategically to bring businesses downtown. Number one, we need to make reasonable the signage codes that we have downtown, so that if you're a business, you can come in, put signs up that attract business while still maintaining the integrity of the historic neighborhoods downtown. Number two, the city has so much land and so much property downtown that we need to get rid of. We need to sell it. We need to invest in our future. You know, one of the things that Governor Martinez did when she sold the state plane, she sold it at a loss. And she did that for several reasons. Here in Las Cruces, we need to, if necessary, sell the city property at a loss so that business can come in and so that business can take over, bring jobs, and bring development to downtown.
Now, when I first interviewed you, one of the questions that I asked you was about your age and what other people think about you running as a young person. What's your reaction to that now?
Yeah, well, you know, what's interesting is...
I mean, does it even matter?
Well, it does, and it matters for a lot of different people for different reasons. Number one, the biggest comment that I hear from people across the board on both political sides is that they're going to vote for me because I'm not beholden to anyone. And like you mentioned earlier, my opponents have been in political office, in one case for decades. They're career politicians, and they have a lot of favors. They have a lot of people, a lot of different things, and I don't. And so that's one benefit that a lot of Las Crucens see in my campaign. But more than that, I think what people need to understand about the position of mayor in Las Cruces, according to our city charter, and you can go to the city charter and see this both in person and online, the mayor of Las Cruces is a symbolic position with ceremonial purposes. And the charter goes on to explain that it shall have no administrative duties. What's interesting about the current mayor is he often goes around touting his administration. He doesn't have an administration. He is the head of the legislative branch of government in our city level. So because of that then, when you talk about the qualifications for mayor, you need someone who can be, will be, the best advocate, lobbyist, and spokesperson for the city of Las Cruces. If you ask yourself, if your job was on the line, if your family's future was on the line, if the future of your community was on the line, which one of the candidates would you want at the other end of the table, advocating, fighting, and lobbying for you? Because that's the question in this race. And so I encourage people to go meet my opponents, talk to my opponents, ask them the same questions that you ask me, and then ask yourself this crucial question for mayor. Which one of us do you want fighting for your behalf? Because that's the job of mayor. When you ask yourself those questions, my age doesn't matter.
What type of reaction are you getting from folks in the community when you go and meet them and talk to them face to face?
Well, you know, I think people are just excited to have someone who talks about, number one, real issues, number two, someone who's intellectually curious about the different issues that are out there. You know, one of the things that I've never appreciated in politics as a lifelong Las Crucen is a professional politician who speaks in political speak. And they look at you, they nod their head, but you can tell their mind is somewhere else. That's what we have too much of in Las Cruces. You know, we're doing such a great job of educating our students here at the university. We're doing such a good job of trying to bring in industry into Las Cruces. We need to do a better job at elevating the professionalism of our politicians in town. And I think people, when they talk to me and hear what I have to say, but more importantly, understand that I genuinely care and want to hear what they have to say, it's a good response because they've met my opponents.
Tell us your views about the red light cameras here in the community. A lot of people support you and a lot of people don't. Tell us your stance.
Well, I'm the only candidate running for mayor who is strongly and has always strongly been against red light cameras for various reasons. First, the history. Both of my opponents led the effort to put in red light cameras in Las Cruces. While the science was against it, while there were plenty of members in the community who were against it, they decided that they were going to force it through against the will of Las Cruces. Now, they did it with a term that I'm finding in this race can easily be thrown around, and that's public safety. Anytime you throw that around in Las Cruces, my opponents use it, and it's just, what does that mean, though? Get specific about it. They use that term with red light cameras, saying, well, we have to do it for public safety. Well, what do the real numbers show now? The real numbers show over the past 2 years that we've had red light cameras in Las Cruces, at every intersection that we've had them, traffic accidents have increased anywhere between 10 and 14%. Well, what does that mean? That means now when Las Cruces, who are taught in driving school in a yellow light, err on the side of caution and run through it, they're now slamming on these brakes in these intersections. Vehicles from behind them are hitting, and we've seen a 14% increase in traffic accidents. So it doesn't increase public safety. What it does do is it increases the revenue for the city. And so if my opponents want the red light cameras, at least be honest about it. Say you want to increase the revenue for the city. I'm the only person who will fight tooth and nail to take them down. The other part that's concerning for me is that when my opponents decided to put them in place, they used a company and hired a company out of Australia. Now in this economy, when Las Cruces are struggling and fighting to keep every penny that they earn, does it make sense that my opponents voted, in essence, that when you receive a citation, to send money away from Las Cruces, away from New Mexico, even away from the United States, to some company in Australia? That's just not right. And that's the type of change that I want to bring in.
Let's talk a little bit about the support. I read somewhere where you mentioned that you were honored to have the support of the Political Action Committee, and then you switched things and said you strongly disagree with the group getting involved in this type of election.
Well, let me give you the background on this, and it is kind of an interesting, complicated story. In short, about a month ago, I challenged both of my opponents to put limits on campaigns so that we could have the cleanest, fairest, and most transparent campaigns in our city's history. Why? Most people are surprised to learn that in Las Cruces today, any person anywhere in the country can write an unlimited amount of check to any candidate. That means someone in Nevada can write a $1 million check to any candidate, and that's okay. Moreover, any corporation across the United States today can write a $10 million check for any candidate in Las Cruces, and that's okay. Furthermore, any candidate in Las Cruces who sends out any type of advertising, any type of mailers, whether it's negative, untrue, they don't have to, they're not required by city law to identify who actually wrote the mail, who actually created it. I think those are wrong. I think those are common sense problems that we should have a common sense solution for. So about a month ago, I asked both of my opponents to do 3 things. Number 1, join me in putting self-imposed limits on how much money we can raise from individuals at $2,300 to match state and federal campaign laws. Number 2, take no corporate money from anyone, anywhere in this race, because I strongly believe that corporations aren't people and that only people should have say in elections. And number 3, if you put any advertising out there, negative, positive, whatever it is, join me in being proud of what you put out there and identifying that you're the one who created it. My opponent said no to every single one of those. So what happened is a group of Las Cruces got concerned. They said if Michael Huerta is going to do the right thing and put limits on himself, can he win? I think I can. They disagreed, and so they went out and they sought the support of a PAC, a Political Action Committee out of Newport, Rhode Island. That committee looked at the race, saw that I was a viable candidate, saw that I was the best candidate for Las Cruces, and decided to get into the race, dedicating tens of thousands of dollars. In one account, I heard almost $100,000. Now, I don't know when the last time you or any of the viewers said no to $50,000 or $100,000, but I did, because I fundamentally disagree with corporate money in elections. I have a lot to gain by accepting any of this money, but I don't want it. I don't want them in Las Cruces because corporations aren't people, and corporations should not be in this race. Even then, even when I'm putting my money where my mouth is, telling this corporation not to bring their tens of thousands of dollars in this race, my opponents still say no. You know, in Las Cruces, we have a good old boys club. It matters who you know and not how hard you work. I want to change that, and the way we first change that is with good, clean elections. I'm committed to doing it, even though my opponents want the status quo.
Since you're a new face to this race, how difficult has it been raising funds for your campaign?
Well, you know, I'm excited. I'm excited that already, as of now a month ago, we've raised more money from more contributors than the current mayor raised in the entire 2007 race. I have donations from 25 out of 50 states, many of them in $5, $10, $25. I have received some bigger contributions, but again, I cap myself out at $2,300 because it's the right thing to do. I can't tell you how many senior citizens across Las Cruces, how many young people, how many working people have come up to me, in one case gave me a $5 bill and said, this is all I can afford, but I believe in you. And that means a lot to me. And I hope, you know, my sincere prayer, my sincere hope and expectation, if my opponents hear every single day the struggles, the challenges that real Las Crucens are facing, then I think through the election and afterwards we'll be okay. I just hope that they do hear those real common sense voices.
One thing that you're also passionate about is school bullying and kind of cracking down on that, correct?
Yeah. Well, you know, the most valuable resource that we have are our young people, our children. And the heritage, the tradition, the history that we leave with them is what's going to carry on beyond our politics, beyond the partisanship. What we leave our children with, how we treat our children is what matters the most. And so I've been excited to work throughout the years to prevent and work with teens who are dealing with depression, teens who are dealing with suicide. You know, I'll tell you a quick story. When I was first deciding to get into the race, a young person sent me a message on Facebook. And this person was 16 years old, a member of one of our local high schools, and they had recently come out as being gay. When they came out, their father and their mother kicked him out. He is now living with his grandparents in Albuquerque. And he sent me a message, and he said, Michael, I read in the paper that you're considering running for mayor. You look qualified, but I saw that you're openly gay. I want you to know how much that means to me, and I want you to know that I hope you win, because I think if you win, it'll be easier for my parents to accept me. So hearing messages like that, whether it's for being a young person, whether it's being Hispanic, whether it's being openly gay, whether it's being a number of things, really makes me want to fight my butt off, fight every single day.
Do you think that's going to have an impact on your campaign?
You know, I hope so. I hope so. I think what people care about right now, more than anything, is someone who will fight and advocate on their behalf. I'll tell you another quick story. I go to the farmer's market almost every Wednesday and Saturday. And I was there, 5-6 weeks ago. A man looks like he's in his probably early 80s, Anglo, cowboy hat, big old belt buckle and boots, comes up to me. When he gets about this close, I notice he has a Tea Party pin on his hat. He says, is your name Michael Huerta? I said, yes, sir, it is. He said, I hear you're the young man running for mayor. I said, yes, sir, I am. He says, these vendors are telling me a lot of good things about you, but they also told me something else. I said, what's that? He said, they told me you're a homosexual. Is that true? I said, yes, sir, I am. He looks at me and so seriously, so stern says, young man, I have one question for you. If you're elected mayor, are you going to govern like a homosexual? Where my response came from, I do not know, but I looked back at him just as serious, just as stern, and I said, sir, if you're asking me if I plan on wearing high heels to the city council meeting, the answer is no. He cracked up. We speak for 45 minutes. This is what I quickly learned in that short time. I had the blessing of being the first openly gay person that he's ever met. And just as quickly as I met him, the stereotypes that he had in his wall melted. In that same time period, I had the opportunity to win over his support. And so you have this man, after 45 minutes of talking to me, who's now supporting me, who came in with this huge conception of what I may or may not be. Why? Because it just makes sense that city politicians shouldn't receive a 15% pay increase. Never mind the fact that I'm gay. It doesn't make sense that city politicians put in red light cameras that have already proven to be failed. Doesn't matter that I'm gay. It just makes sense that we should do everything we can to fight for the middle class, to fight for everyone who needs a voice in city government, never mind the fact that I'm gay. That's what Las Crucens care about. And what I know is if I can bring that man over, if I can at the same time reach out to young people, we can move forward in this race, and we can do it for people who need a voice.
And you're also educating people on Facebook as well as your own website. Where can people find you?
People can find me on my own website, which is michaelrayhuerta.com. You can also go to facebook.com/michaelformayor. All my information is there. Feel free to call me, feel free to text me, feel free to email me, feel free to meet up with me for coffee. We can have a house party. I'm excited to meet people. I'm excited to hear from you, but most importantly, I'm excited to have the opportunity to fight for the issues, fight for the things that matter for all working families in our community.
In the last couple of seconds that we have here, if someone said, who is Michael Ray Huerta, what would you say?
A guy who's willing to fight. A guy who's willing to fight for you, for your family, who isn't going to do it for the pay, who isn't going to do it for something on his resume, who isn't going to do it for a title, but who's going to do it because when he hears about 35% of children who live in poverty in our community, I don't think of a statistic. I think about my younger cousins. When I hear about the number of women in our community who live in poverty, I don't think about a statistic. I think about my mom who built herself up from poverty to where she is today. I want you to think of a fighter, someone who shares the same values as you do.
All right, Michael, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much.
All right, and that's all the time we have. Remember, you can see this entire interview online at krwg.org. While you're there, you can visit our blog and follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook. I'm Carlos Correa. Until next time.